Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Ankur Mathur. There are some parts of our lives which did overlap, like some places that we studied and we grew up with together. But I'm very excited to welcome Ankur and learn more about how his successful journey looks like. And he is right in the middle of the latest and the best things happening in the industry. So without me spoiling or spilling the beans, I will let Ankur introduce himself and share his journey.
Oh, thank you, Amish, for the kind words. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here in Main Street Minds and share a little bit of my journey and see what happens. This is I understand, a really informal chat, so I don't have an agenda as such. I'll let you drive the topics.
Sure. And so tell us more about how the entire journey looks like, all the way from like IIT Mumbai till being the CTO for an AI company. That
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, I'll go back even further. I'd love to sort of tell you how I think that's sort of an interesting, I don't know, to me at least, how I got into IIT Mumbai is also a bit hard. So I grew up in Calcutta, which is, an interesting place by itself. It's, I know many of the viewers may not know, it's in the east of India. It is. A very socialist kind of mindset there, very intellectual. I almost think of it as a, sort of a little France of India almost. Like,
Yeah.
it's very independent thinking, very feminist. Anyway, so, I was a good student in school. I was very diligent and I was also, growing up infatuated with science fiction. So I read a little bit. Actually, there was a friend of mine who gave me this. You got to read this Asimov Foundation series, and I started reading science fiction and got hooked onto. And that's where I think the kind of the seeds of my passion for AI were sown. I really felt like, wow, this would be really cool if it could happen. And of course, like we never imagined anything like this could occur in our lifetimes. But and then I studied really hard to get into IIT Bombay. It was actually my second attempt. The first time I kind of froze in the exam, and so it's there's so much pressure. And now I think it's gotten even worse. But I got into IIT Mumbai. I got into the chemistry stream, and then I switched branches into engineering physics, which was a lucky break. I loved physics and computer science, and it was from the programming a lot from my young age. These two things kind of were definitely where I wanted to be in terms of interest. Um, and then again, sort of fortuitously, a colleague of mine gave me a book on these neural networks. It's actually an interesting one, which is it's called a Hopfield network. Actually, there was like recently there was a Nobel Prize given in physics for that, but this was by an Israeli scientist from Hebrew University who had written a book on this, and it draws parallels from some like spin glasses, which are some frustrated systems in condensed matter physics. But anyway, it was very exciting to me. I started reading that, and I did my senior year thesis in that. I went to ISC Bangalore for my senior year research project internship, and there I found someone who was actually modeling epilepsy using these Hopfield networks, professor. And so it was, then I wanted to do more research, and so I applied to for PhD to the colleges in the US, and fortunately because of all the excellent recommendations and I was able to get into most of the places I applied to. I went to Cornell for I started my PhD at Cornell. I was really looking to find something in that area of like AI physics or like something at the interface. But somehow like it was kind of the AI winter, and it was hard to kind of find anything exactly in that space. So I eventually, I learned a lot in grad school, and people around were obviously like very motivated, and so I decided that for now I want to go into industry. So I kind of ducked out of the PhD program. I took a terminal master's thesis, as it's called. Um, that was all around like and even back then actually there was a forward thinking. My group was using Python. This was 1998 2000. It had just come out, and so I was lucky again. I learned some Python in high school, and oh sorry, in grad school. And but anyway, I wandered into the software industry in the Silicon Valley. So I moved across the states to San Jose, joined a company that had just gone public, uh, but that was exactly when the bubble burst. This was the dot-com bubble,
Yeah.
and so like we went through a series of layoffs and acquisitions and this and that. Eventually, I decided to return to India, and actually, I was not that was not such a quick decision. Um, I was I reached India on like September 10th, 2001, and just around, and the next day I woke up and the Twin Towers had happened, 9/11 had happened. It was
Yeah.
like crazy. And then after that, everything was like the downhill from there in terms of employment. So, I stayed on longer, and then went back, decided to pack up, and sort of rode the offshoring wave for, 4 or 5 years. And, met my wife there. And then we got this offer to move to Canada. So this company recruited me. I was working for IBM at the time, and a company recruited me to move to Canada, and it was really great. It's a very warm atmosphere. People were very friendly. We had both our kids in Winnipeg, actually, in Canada, and then moved to Toronto for another 4 or 5 years, and then got this opportunity to sort of full circle come back to the Bay Area. So Macy's hired me into their enterprise architecture group and gave me an opportunity to get back into ML and AI in a professional manner. And I just did a bunch of projects there, and I really kind of got the breadth of experience. And then I joined a startup that was doing really well called Iterable, and got a chance to start up their AI practice at Iterable. Um, which was again a huge learning experience. We were like 6 months behind when I joined. There was no platform, there was no team, and we had already announced some AI products. So like just going from 0 to 1, like a startup within a scale up, you could say. It was Series B at that time, and it was like just building stuff. Hired this kind of really high energy, passionate team, lots of people from straight out of grad school, a few, senior engineers, and built out the products. In the first year, we were going super fast, and then gradually, then the scale challenges came up with scaling the whole system to support all the huge. We had one of our biggest customers in Iterable is DoorDash, and so they were growing so fast. We were a marketing platform. Sorry, I should have mentioned. So the scale at which you have to operate to like support the outbound marketing from these big B2C companies is quite
Yeah.
challenging. So that's kind of yeah. I'll just pause there. So that was kind of the major part of my journey. So,
No, that's very interesting because like I do a little bit of B2C marketing and
mhm.
just for my own business, and it's just
Mhm.
amazing just the volume of people that we have to deal with. Like
Yeah,
every time I start it, I'm like I keep going like I keep using it as a switch, saying, hey, turn on the marketing, and then it's a flood of things that I need to handle. I'm like, switch it off. I can't handle this.
exactly. You're not too far from what a lot of established companies experience. They're like, oh gosh, we gotta like suddenly like horizontally scale this cluster because this customer is like sending out, you know, 10 million emails at 9 a.m. Like, you know, what do we do? Like everything is crashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then, so I think you're the first person I know that has been doing AI as a career way before any of this was as popular, right? Like in college times, I went through some AI learnings, and I was like, this is just a computer program. We're making it do like crazy work and just calling it AI. That's what it felt like initially. But then obviously it has matured into something just so much more useful now. So
You're absolutely right. I just remembered a very funny incident. Like, this was my grade 10 ICSE project where I actually created a chat bot in some ways, but it was so silly. It would just look for keywords and then reply with some canned answers. It was written in GW Basic, but yeah, it was just kind of the desire was there right from the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's amazing where we are today. So tell us more about your current venture.
Right. Yeah. So I had been at Tribble for 5.5 years or so, and I met my current CEO and founder back in India. I was actually back in Kolkata after almost 30 years.
Mhm.
Well, actually, not. I'd met that group of high school people after 30 years. Some of them were like from kids to suddenly like middle-aged people. It was kind of funny, but one of my close friends introduced me to Tej, who is the CEO of Experiture, and he has an interesting company. He's been running this marketing technology company uh, from for about 15 years out of Brooklyn. And they started off with these bringing people from the non-digital side into the digital marketing domain. So basically like QR codes on postcards
Mhm.
those leading to personalized landing pages, and then collecting the information and moving. So of course, like it's quite common right now, but back then it was sort of a pioneering effort. So that's how they kind of grew, and then it's all bootstrapped. They've never taken any VC funding, or we have, and so it's been growing organically, built a really powerful platform. Sort of a lot of it is modeled after SFMC, I would say, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but it's now become like even more like powerful. It's got lots of integrations. Um, so, I was when I was at Dribble, I was like this Gen AI, buzz had started, and I was, it's just kind of changed the type of software that can be created, right? Like we're in a complete kind of transformational phase. So there are a lot of ideas buzzing around where in my head about like what we could do with agents and sort of making these things more autonomous, because marketing is, I think, like notoriously tedious in some ways.
Yeah,
If you have to like personalize every campaign at a minute level, first of all, you can't do it as well as a intelligent machine could, and then secondly, I think it's hard to scale. If you have like those kinds of lists of tens of millions or even a billion customers, like it's very hard to like do segmentation and proper like campaign journey orchestration. And we've I had seen all this at Tribble, and we were trying, but the stage of the company matters, and there was this real hunger and expenditure to modernize and even leapfrog some of the work that had
Mhm.
been that could be done in like sort of classic ML. So it's an interesting time at Experiture. We're in some ways re-architecting the entire thing. The approach is we're keeping the core, which is like really powerful, and then uh, where it makes sense, we are creating like new APIs to
Mhm.
support a layer of agents outside it. So we call our agent Zaira. We released her in November, and at the moment she can do some segmentation, And so you talk to it and say, find me all people in New York about below a certain in this age group who live in these zip codes and have an interest in this and have bought something in that. And you can write fairly complex things conversationally. Oh, find me not these people, change the zip code down to this, because you can sort of visualize the thing. So um, that was a really fun project. I built it initially almost by myself using Cursor, and so I had obviously been doing like more management and leadership for a while. I try to stay hands-on, but it's really fun to like get back into coding now thanks to these tools.
Yeah.
So while we were hiring the AI team, I was able to like release the first version of our agent, and now we're working on covering the rest of the surfaces, like content creation, personalized content creation, as well as journey mapping and analytics. Analytics is another big area where I think this conversational thing is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little more about the omni-channel aspect of it. So, what is it doing differently than, let's say, like if a human being has to do this like on one channel at a time versus an
Right.
AI software being able to do this omni-channel and the advantages of that.
Yeah, really good question. I think that is one of the unique things that these modern platforms bring. That the way people engage on different channels is very different. So what we have is actually a way for us to create these omni-channel journeys where you try different channels, for example, and you get feedback from how the users are engaging, and you can have at the moment rules based on, okay, like if people don't respond to 3 or 4 consecutive email campaigns, then maybe try push or SMS or even like direct marketing, like mail something out, or there are all these experiments that essentially you can run on this omni-channel journey that is going to optimize how you talk to each person, adapt to that person's preferences. So I think maybe that's kind of the summary of how
Yeah.
these omnichannel, and this is not honestly like unique to Experiture. A lot of modern platforms offer these omni-channel journey mapping canvases. I think what is unique, and I'm not seeing anyone do it excellently, is how do you make this more automated so that a human is not actually even having to design these rules and experiments manually, and the machine is kind of designing experiments and running them
Hmm.
smartly. And humans are there for some oversight. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the direction we're
Are
going.
you still at Series B or this is further ahead now?
At Expenditure, it's not we still don't have any. We never took it. We're profitable.
Okay.
We don't have VC funding at the
Oh,
moment.
nice. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
But this is that's the it's an interesting dynamic, and uh, maybe a little bit of a controversial thing to say, but I think there are like some pros and cons of
Yeah.
uh, taking funding versus not,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you get a lot of different kind of autonomy and freedom. But yeah, I mean the pace at which you can grow the top line also is something to consider. So we think about that quite a bit now. It's possible that
Sure.
we may go for some funding.
Yeah, makes sense. And then I think how long has it been? Like when did you go live first with this?
The agents since November. I
Oh.
joined the company in April or May of last year, and
Okay.
then November we made our agents release. Meanwhile, we did some like sort of table stake ML stuff, STO, and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, so
And
yeah, it's still relatively early to um, fully like sort of show the full gamut of possibilities that these agents have, and that, but I think yeah, in the next 6 months or so, we may have something that we can uh, go to market in a big way with, and that might be the time to raise some funding.
Yes, I think I know you are in the marketing business itself, but marketing the product itself just takes so much resources, right? So when you have something new, getting the word out in today's world is everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that is the draw for me as well. Like, initially I was like, I worked a long time in retail, and I was deeper in the funnel. So I used to handle more search, discovery, recommendations. Once the person has landed on your site, how do you make their experience perfect? So I was not that involved in the top of the funnel marketing stuff, but after joining Iterable, I think it was eye-opening to see what an impact and how much of an essential commodity almost marketing is, because you can't no business, like it's the oldest component of a business, right? Like even back in pre-computer, I'm sure like people used to hand out flyers, and there's no way you can start a business or reach people or do any sort of commerce without some sort of marketing. So it seems very fundamental.
Yeah, like it's most people that I speak with are like there's only two main parts to a business, marketing and sales. So everything else can be controlled, can be managed, can be improved. But if you're not doing these two, nothing else matters.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it seems kind of pretty obvious at times, but then you have to remind some engineers that, right? Like engineers don't think that way. They're like, no, I'm building something. Like, of course, people will want it. Like, this is beautiful. Like,
Yeah. And I think the good thing is we can, in today's world, we can always go back and say, hey, what was the difference between what Apple is doing and what is making it successful, right? Like the core
Mhm.
concept saying, don't just make something and then figure out how to sell it to a customer. Like first identify the need and then make something that fulfills that need.
Absolutely. That's a lesson a lot of us have to learn the hard way. But now, of course, like Amazon and Bezos has made it like a holy grail, right? Like the customer first mindset
Yeah.
and working backwards from the press release. And I love those concepts.
Yeah, cool. So tell us a little bit more about where you see things headed in the next 5 years.
Oh, yeah, this is a very difficult question suddenly. I mean, if you'd asked me this questions five years ago, I would have been wrong, but would have been confident. Oh, we're gonna, build some incremental thing and yeah, it's gonna do this. I think it's a very crazy time in some ways. Just not getting into sort of the geopolitical stuff, but then even tech wise, I think there is a possibility that we may we were definitely like approaching the peak of the hype cycle or maybe even past it. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a trough of disillusionment from LLM and Gen AI stuff, I think primarily. But I think it'll be shallow because people have already figured out how to start using these tools that appear to be really intelligent, but then kind of fail in embarrassing ways unexpectedly, and use them alongside a lot of the kind of classical methods and things like reinforcement learning, which are of course like everywhere, are being used to um, orchestrate AI journeys that are much more reliable, and use LLMs as just a component, LLMs or even image as a component of the whole system. So I think we're going to see, I think we're already in some ways seeing a lot of software architecture principles adapting to this kind of new reality of having intelligent software components, and how you build systems with them with new types of human computer interfaces. I think that's another thing area that I think is really hot right now. How humans interact with intelligence or computer intelligence. Um, And I think that that journey is going to take us to a place where I'm a real optimist, where like I think in the next 5 years, despite the short-term pain of people having to shift their kind of specialities from skills that are maybe less important for humans now, that machines can do reliably and well. I think humans are going to see a step up in prosperity and in happiness, hopefully, like in the type of things we can do and focus on. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good that's going to come as we kind of navigate the bumps in the road.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so that does look a very good optimistic future. So in that, like what just going back to what you're doing right now, like are you focusing on specific verticals of or the platform is going to be agnostic, so it can be used for any marketing?
It's it's definitely we already have a lot of customers across different verticals. A lot of our customers are actually agencies, and so they in turn focus on certain verticals typically. So through them we have exposure to lots of like hospitality, real estate, gaming. There's retail, automotive. There's a whole bunch, and I'm not kind of ready with that right now. But yeah, I mean, it's to answer your question, they are we have both sort of like deep like custom integrations in certain verticals where there is demand, and I think that's part of the kind of the extensibility of the platform is really good, where we can quickly like build deep integrations into custom CDPs and things like that. Data is obviously the main thing in these platforms, but it's also very generic. So you could also just plug and play almost any business out of this. There's some like standard things that come with it, but yeah. So I think because you're relatively lean and nimble, we don't have that kind of inflexibility that some of the bigger players may be suffering.
Yeah. So that tell us a little bit more about more from an organization perspective, saying what made you successful so quickly. Like, I don't think somebody without VC funding, without like how did you manage to reach this level of maturity in the organization so quickly?
Yeah, so actually, I'll be honest. It's grown organically, right? The company's been around for 15 so years, and initially, we had a small group of very dedicated engineers, and they really know the product. They've built it from the beginning, so I think a lot of it is around ownership and driving that sense of agency. I think one of the main organizationally, I think one of the things that's really working well at Experiture is that there are very few layers of management, and it's a little bit more, even though it's a 15-year-old company, it feels like a startup where people are expected to like take a concept, prototype it, pitch it, and then gather the resources they need and run with it and deliver it. So I think like culturally that is built into the DNA of the company. It's not something that we have to kind of read a book about and like preach or something. So it's like that's how everyone works, and so I think that is probably the single secret to getting
I
there.
understand that for some reason I thought it's only been a couple of years, but I think the company has been around for a very long time. They've been in the industry because I was like very surprised within a year and a half. How did you reach so much success? But so they were doing it without AI, and now it's a little bit more. IoT,
Yeah,
oriented.
I think it's also it's not just AI. I think there's also been a continuous re-architecture, and I think it started about a year before I joined. They were already on this journey of making everything event-driven and modern, a lot of API based. As you can imagine, a lot of uh, software that was built like in the last decade or so, and most startups starts off a little bit monolithic, like everything is there's one database and there's like everything is built into one
Yeah,
application. So I think a lot of the journey that they were already on when I joined was breaking this up into services, having for a lot of parts like having more event driven and moving the analytics off to an analytics store and things like that. So there's been a lot of sort of architecture work going on, and I hopefully when I joined I was able to accelerate it and sort of add my experience to it. So that is kind of the non-AI like architectural transformation that also I think is well, like it's that has also reached a level of maturity where uh, we don't think there are sort of like major changes happening there. But yes, you're right. This layer of AI and putting a lot of some things also needed to be tweaked to allow that. And I think the event-driven architecture really lends itself well to this agentic model where
yeah,
a new agent can come in and subscribe to certain types of updates, and maybe it wants to receive all you know email opens or something, and it's going to like go and do something with it, like, so everything can be more loosely coupled that way.
yeah, yeah. And I think one of the things you did mention was about conversations. Like, how do we improve the conversations? Like, what are you doing on that front?
Yeah, so the conversational aspect of it is mainly happening through Zaira, our agent, and so we have both. Actually, right now we have like text-based conversations, but it's relatively easy these days to add voice, which we do plan to add, and the main thing there is that to be able to have that context and the memory and having uh, deep knowledge of the platform itself and the customer's data
Mhm.
to inform these conversations, make these very high fidelity. It's not kind of very superficial, or so it's able to like dive deep and sort of because we have this kind of hierarchy of agents, like the main agent that's talking to the customer can then say, okay, analytics agent, go and find out how these campaigns have been doing in this time, and then can
Mhm.
come back and inform. So like we actually have a panel of uh, conversational agents helping make this the quality of these conversations with the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it when you say voice-based, is it actually on a cell phone or it's on the web right now?
So, I mean, it's a web app, and it can be used on the mobile. It's responsive. So, yeah, I mean, this is of course like a B2B app. So, like you can like we haven't we've done some kind of product research and haven't found the need to have an actual mobile app. But again, that's like fairly easy to build if there is
Yeah,
demand for
no, I
that.
was thinking more
Yeah.
on the customer support side, like if you were doing something on the B2C where not having to wait for a customer rep and an AI agent is able to like speak with me over voice and resolve an issue for me.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of companies are already doing that, the customer support side of things.
Yeah.
I believe we partner with some of those, and yeah, we try to stay kind of a little bit more focused on
Yeah.
the customer acquisition, loyalty, retention side of things. But you're right. I mean that customer support side is also, they're big players in that space.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. I got a little bit distracted on
No,
the possibilities, but
it's no, no, you're right. And actually, that there is a spectrum, and there's a lot of benefit in unifying that. So it's a good idea. Yeah.
yeah, because I did reach out to some. There was like a online support portal called justhelp.com or some word similar to that. And I did not even realize by the time I reached out for some support question, and by the time I ended up buying something from them, it was such a smooth transition. And I was,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I truly believe that that every conversation can result in a sale. It should be like completely transparent.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I often think about it in terms of um, even like sort of I work on a lot of like side projects of my own, and so I mean I haven't looked into this for a little while, but having some sort of a white label type of product that um, offers these kind of agentic functions, maybe as an MCP server or something like that, that can then be used in various different ways. Like, it can be skinned. I think a lot of these big platforms, I think that's another thing to your earlier question about uh, evolution. I do think that these kind of big platforms are going to get, split up. I think the people want to control their brand and their you know I think the taste differs, like a Nike versus a Walmart, or so I think a lot of companies are going to. I think there should be a demand for basically like white label frameworks and platforms that can then be used to have this kind of unified customer experience. And I think a lot of the big companies already do that, and they build it in-house for that reason. But I think that there's a lot of depth now to how you do these things well. And so I think a lot of these kind of framework level things and
yeah.
things that can, yeah, that can be used will be
Yeah.
very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prior to doing real estate investments right now, I used to do tech and I used to focus on security. And right now, I'm almost like, while having this conversation, this sudden weird thought came in my mind saying, we need a compliance framework over here. We are going to, on one end, the mobile phones are getting a little bit more smarter and a little more AI is being built into the consumer's handset itself that might be able to do a few things for us. And then on the other side, the businesses are coming up with more of AI agents to receive these requests. There will be a time when the AI from here is speaking with the AI over here and then taking care of a thing. But now if thinking about that future, I'm thinking there needs to be some compliance framework saying what should be possible, what I should have an ability to tell my AI agent assistant on my phone, saying, do not give away my social security number, even if it's just for authentication
Right.
purposes. And yeah, I just started thinking from a security and compliance perspective, which is going to be huge.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a huge amount of investment going into AI security, and I mean, what you pointed out is probably kind of, step one is to make sure the interfaces are absolutely secure. But even like, how the data is flowing beyond like basic security about like privacy and these things are huge in terms of and I think that sort of sparks another kind of stream of thought for me, like around decentralization and blockchain and things like that. I think that is another aspect that is quickly going to be blended into software. I think that 5 years down the line, I think that's going to be the way people do things, and there's not going to be like this kind of centralized repositories of personal data and things like that. So yeah, I think that's another interesting dimension that you bring up.
Yeah, I think blockchain probably took a little bit of a back step with AI coming in, but I think there is still a lot of innovation pending on the blockchain side.
Yeah, I know people are still working. I think these cycles are good because, if you're in the spotlight all the time, then, sometimes there's too much noise to actually work. That's what's happening with AI right now. And maybe blockchain is getting its little time in the shade. But I think there are companies working. I know some people who are working like at the overlap of ML on blockchain. and it's
Interesting.
really
Yeah,
interesting.
where do you see the overlap right now? Like with blockchain and ML, like where do you like, is there a use case that you are seeing some work being done?
Yeah, again, I haven't researched this too deeply. Unfortunately, I want to, but basically, the idea of doing ML over decentralized, the data that's encrypted and not, sort of having these kind of federated machine learning. Basically, what it means is that each node of a block can then get its own intelligence. It works independently of the other. It doesn't
Mhm.
need to pull all the data in. That's kind of one mode. And then,
Okay.
there are other ways of sort of decentralizing the ML itself so that things are not, um, basically there's no one point where you can kind of crack the for lack of a better word, like the data box open and get all the insight all at once. And yeah, it's more complicated than that. There's sort of like layers of things that you can do to do ML, but it's a different, I'd say, like the data platform uh, layer completely changes.
Yeah, yeah, that is really cool. So I know like there is just so much wealth of knowledge that I would love to like keep going more into detail, but focusing more a little bit on the future, like where do you see yourself like in your career? Like what would be the exciting next step for you?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm more of a kind of a person who prioritizes kind of wonder over achievement. And so I want to keep kind of flowing with my curiosity, learning new things. I think that's kind of what drives me. Like you probably witnessed right now, I'm somewhat weak on the blockchain stuff. I've read about it here and there, but I need to sort of get into that, and I definitely want to get better at AI reinforcement learning. So I think, more than sort of achieving a certain goal, or like, you know you making a startup successful or something like that, which is like all good side effects. I think I would like to keep following my curiosity, building cool stuff.
Nice, nice. That is magical, right? It's the sense of satisfaction that we get by doing something, and like and when we learn something and that actually is able to have an impact, make a change, do something useful. It's almost like having a baby, right? Seeing a baby, seeing the baby grow up more intelligent than we are. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
magic.
exactly.
Cool. Sounds great. So what's the best way somebody can reach you?
I think LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there, and I'm relatively less kind of, I'm not one of those people who like block outreach. So I don't mind. And Yeah, I think that's probably the best. I also have um, I mean, yeah, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, that's probably the best way.
Yeah.
I do have a Twitter account. I'm more of a consumer on X. I just recently opened up a Blue Sky account, which I plan to use as well.
Yeah, sounds great. So I think LinkedIn is the primary way to reach you, which is perfect. So yeah, before we conclude, any other final thoughts of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh no, thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I just say, like, just uh, keep following your heart and your curiosity, and I think, we're humans are essentially good, and I have a lot of confidence that we'll come out of this quickly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this is, I think the many times we are worried that the economy is not doing good, but that's when we see that best possible innovations come out and completely transform the way things work. And that innovation that comes out probably fixes the issues that are there in the world. So
Yeah,
these are
absolutely.
these are phases of life, and these are just opportunities to make something more useful.
Right.
Sounds great. Thanks. Thanks, Ankur.
Thanks, Amish. Yeah, it was great chatting with you.
Yeah, same here. Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.